Okay, today we will talk about ethical legal considerations and issues in the care of sick mothers and child. Let me just um, share my screen. So this is my screen. Sorry for that one. Okay, so this is for your week 13. We will talk particularly about Protection of Women Domestic Violence Act and Protection of Women Against Sexual Harassment. For this one, we have the key aspects of protection of women against domestic violence. So we have here the 9262. You have learned about this. This talks about the legal frameworks and laws and regulations that many countries are observing to address domestic violence. And this uh, laws or this law outlines your consequences, okay, for perpetrators, not only for perpetrators, but what will we do with the victim? So your 9262 is the Anti-Violence Act Against Women and Their Children of 2004. This actually talks the about protection of the dignity of the women and children that guarantees full respect for human rights, and the state also recognizes the need to protect the family and its members, particularly women and children, from violence and threats to their personal safety and security. Next is we have here restraining orders. Courts may issue restraining or protection orders that prohibit the abusive party from contacting or approaching the victim. Violating these orders can lead to legal consequences. So this one, if for example, you know the perpetrator is not allowed. Okay, the perpetrator is not allowed, or the one who did the crime is not allowed to contact the victim or go to the vicinity. So sometimes we ask, for example, in our locality, sometimes we ask the barangay captain to have or to give restraining orders to these perpetrators. We also have here those violence are, if we talk about this violence in 9262, it ranges from your physical violence. Physical violence refers to the acts that include bodily or physical harm. We also have here sexual violence. Your sexual violence refers to the act within the sexual that is sexual in nature, committed against the woman or the child, and it includes but not limited to yung rape ninyo, sexual harassment, acts of lasciviousness, treating a woman or her child as a sex object, or making or demeaning and sexually suggestive remarks, yung mga medyo bastos na salita, physically attacking sexual parts, okay, without, of course, the consent of the other party, or forcing him or her to watch yung mga obscene publications or indecent shows, or forcing your wife and or mistress or lover to live in a conjugal home or sleep together in the same with the abuser. So hindi pwedeng pilitin mong makitulog siya sa'yo, okay? Another form of violence is your psychological violence, okay? When you say psychological violence, these are acts or omissions causing or likely to cause mental or emotional suffering of the victim, such as but not limited to yung mga intimidation, harassment, stalking, damage to property, public ridicule or humiliation, repeated verbal abuse or mental infidelity, or it includes causing or allowing the victim to witness the physical or sexual or psychological abuse, okay? Or yung mga you wanted them to witness pornography in any form, okay, yun yung mga psychological violence. Another is economic abuse. When you say economic abuse, this refers to the acts that make or attempt to make the woman financially dependent includes but not limited to the following, yung mga, for example, withdrawal of financial support or preventing the victim from engaging in any legitimate profession, occupation, or business or activity. Okay. Another is deprivation or threat of deprivation of financial resources and the right to enjoyment of the conjugal community. For example, you have bought a car together, then you do not allow your partner to use the car. And another is destroying the household property. Destroying household property. If, for example, you get angry, you will just go and get that TV and throw it away. And controlling the victim's own money or properties. Okay. Another form is, of course, you also have your battery, your battered woman syndrome. Battery is when you do a physical harm upon the woman or child resulting to physical or psychological abuse. Another is battered woman syndrome. Pwede kasing yung battered woman syndrome is a pattern of psychological or behavioral symptoms found in women living in battering relationships, such as of the cumulative abuse. Okay, another one is stalking. Stalking refers to your intentional act committed by a person who knowingly and without lawful justification that follows a woman or her child places the man or the woman or the child under surveillance. So stalking is like you're having a surveillance. You're looking after pwedeng yung both the woman or the child. Another is sexual relation, refers to a single sexual act which may or may not result in bearing of a common child. So it could be a sexual act that may or may not result into pregnancy. Safe place or shelter. So when we say safe place or shelter, this refers to home or institution. Like, for example, you have your DSWDs. We'll talk about it later. So we have here support services. Aside from the DSWD, we have NGOs or non-government organizations that could provide shelter to these victims. And of course, very important is counseling and therapy. Okay. This would finally help the survivors to cope with the emotional or psychological impact of the domestic violence. Law enforcement and judicial response, of course, police training. These officers will, for example, if you will be having a case of domestic violence, after going to the barangay will report it to the WCPD, okay, the women's desk in the police station. And then later on, you will have your fast track courts. Okay, sometimes if it will not be, it will not be tackled well in the police station, then you will have to sometimes file cases. Okay. Awareness and education, of course, we'll have to have public campaigns on awareness or educating the public on what are the forms of this violence. You have to educate them what are the available support services and the importance of intervention on how we will be going to prevent the occurrence of this violence. So if they are familiar that these are forms of emotional or psychological violence, then people would know how to intervene with it. For school programs, aside from the inclusion of sex education in the early in the DepEd, yung when we say inclusion of sex education kasi they are already talking about these things. Aside from that, you will have school programs on healthy relationship, on consent and consequences of domestic violence. So it should be tackled then in the school. So for the nursing profession, why do we have to know about this? And your lesson is about the mother and child because we have a lot of victims and we should know how to deal with those. Okay, so we can educate our patients well. We have international initiatives, so do not talk about the ICC. We are only talking about the various international agreements and conventions. For example, we have the CEDAW. What is your CEDAW? It's the Convention on the Elimination of all forms of discrimination against women and children. So, what is your CEDAW? Is it important? Okay, what is your CEDAW? Is it important? Okay. So your CEDAW is Actually, it's a United Nations treaty that is adopted in 1979 called the International Bill of Rights of Women, aiming to eliminate discrimination and to promote equal rights. Okay, so what is the purpose of the CEDAW? The CEDAW is um, envisioned to incorporate the principle of equality of men and women in the legal system or abolish all discriminatory laws and adopt appropriate ones prohibiting the discrimination against women. This is for establishing tribunals and other public institutions to ensure what effective protection against women and discrimination. Aside from this one, you will also have we also have community support groups, and these are established groups where survivors can share experiences and find strength and solidarity. Okay, for us to be able to orient them that they are not the only person or the only one who became victims of this violence. So that's one. In psychiatric nursing, if you know that you're not the only victim, then it feels better that you have that one person surviving with you. Okay. Another one is community policing. Okay. You have to build trust between law enforcement and communities in crucial, and this is crucial for effective intervention and prevention. So your client should be aware that we have to trust your law enforcement agencies. Like for example, we have to trust the police that they could do something about it. And then number seven, employment and economic empowerment. We are empowering women to be able to contribute or to become economically capable of contributing something to the family and to live abusive relationships. Why? Sometimes women who are abused could not leave the family or could not leave the husband because the woman depends on the husband. So we have to empower them that they are able to to contribute something to the or that they are able to work for themselves, that they have the ability to become independent, so that they will have the they will have um, the ability to leave the abusive relationship. Protection of women against sexual harassment. We also have here Republic Act 7877, Anti-Sexual Harassment Act of 1995. So we have here um, the law defining your punishing acts of sexual harassment. So your RA 7877 in the Philippine scenario, okay? It talks about your education or trainings for what we call sexual harassment. So under RA 7877, work, education, or training related to sexual harassment is committed by an employer. So in the workplace, there should be trainings about this. In charge dito, not only of course the employee, but also the manager, supervisor, agent, or employer, or even instructors or professors, coach or trainer, having the authority, okay, influence or moral ascendancy over another in a work or training education in an environment, okay, that demands or requests or otherwise requires any sexual favor from other regardless of whether the demand, request, or requirement for submission is accepted or not by the object of the said act. Okay, so how is work-related sexual harassment committed? So when there is sexual favor is made as a condition in hiring, okay, in the employment, reemployment, or continued employment of the said individual, or in granting individual favorable compensation, terms, conditions, promotions, or privileges, or refusal to grant the sexual favor resulting in limiting or segregating or classifying the employee, which in any way would discriminate, deprive, or diminish employment opportunities or otherwise adversely affect the other employee. Another is the above, or those acts would impair the employee's rights to privilege under existing labor laws. So it could be hostile or offensive environment for the employee. And for this one, how is education or training related sexual harassment committed? When there is against one who is under care, custody, or supervision of the offender, when against one whose education, training, apprenticeship, okay, apprenticeship or ano na yun, or tutorship, right, is entrusted to the offender. Another is when the sexual favor is made a condition to the giving of a passing grade, okay, granting of honors or scholarships, or the payment of a stipend, allowance, or benefits, privileges, and considerations, or when the sexual advances result in intimidating, hostile, or offensive environment for the student, trainee, or the apprentice. So, okay. How about your RA 11 uh 313? So your RA 11313 talks about your penalizing your gender-based sexual harassment in street public spaces, online workplaces, and educational and training institution. This is actually the Bawal Bastos Law. Okay, this is the Bawal Bastos Law. Okay, that is defining or penalizes gender-based sexual harassment in streets. That's what I've mentioned, okay, or in workplaces. So the scope of this, it governs or gender-based sexual harassment, and the penalties will be tackled later. Okay. Workplace policy. So the employer responsibilities, the employer of organizations should be adopting comprehensive anti-sexual harassment policies. They must be aware. The employees must be aware of these acts, and of course, they will have to have policies that defines sexual harassment, reporting mechanisms, and consequences for offenders. But again, this is only Philippine based. Okay. For training programs, okay, many workplaces are conducting trainings, so they will have to have trainings on what constitutes a sexual harassment, how to prevent it, and what could be the steps to take if the witness or experience such behaviors. Okay. About reporting mechanisms, of course, we have want to observe confidentiality. So employers often provide multiple channels for reporting, including anonymous options, because the victims, syempre, sometimes the victims would not allow you as the reporter to mention their names, or even to um, mention their names upon reporting. So we also have here third-party reporting. These are in some organizations involve third-party entities to receive and investigate complaints, ensuring the impartial and fair processes. Okay, so we have to tackle this fairly. Awareness and campaigns, educational initiatives. This talks about public awareness, the impacts of sexual harassment, or even creating a respectful and inclusive environment. So the anti-Bastos law talks about, or give us the privilege to have an environment that is conducive for everyone, that is respectful and inclusive. Okay. We also have here media and social media campaigns. Leveraging media and social media platforms helps amplify messages against sexual harassment. So sometimes you see those who are actors, okay, making campaigns about sexual harassment. Support services, aside from counseling, we also have support hotlines, and this will help the clients to cope with the emotional and psychological effects of harassment. Okay, so this one for the victims, okay, for the victims, they have to know that they have the right to access to the support hotlines. I'm sorry. And aside from that, we have also legal aid. It offers legal support for victims pursuing legal action against perpetrators, and can be crucial in ensuring justice. Next. Sectionality considerations. We have here inclusive policies. It's recognizing that sexual harassment can disproportionately affect certain groups, including women, for marginalized communities. Okay, this now involves our client in maternal and child health nursing. That sometimes, di ba, when you see women after childbearing or child rearing, you might see them wearing clothes without bra, and sometimes this are the point of entry of abuses. Okay, so you have to educate them, to empower them, that even after giving birth, they have to keep themselves pleasing to the eyes of other people, but not showing their private areas. Okay, inclusive policies for addressing these unique challenges faced by different individuals. But for the bystander intervention programs, okay, you have to empower everyone that when they witness inappropriate behavior, they should be able to report those for us to be able to improve and the environment and to for us for everyone to have a safer environment. So these training programs, okay, aside from training programs, is our ability to educate them. So what is now the importance of being a nurse or a midwife in the community is for us to be able to educate these women that there are things that are not really normal when it comes to some acts. Okay, so they have to recognize which act is uh, prohibited and which act is not which act is prohibited and which act is not prohibited. So be by making them aware of these things, then we could help them not really to cover themselves, but we can help them protect themselves from other forms of abuses. And whenever they are victims of abuse, we have to lend a helping hand. Um, we have to update them. Oh no, we have to teach them. We have to educate them when and where to go and what to do. So that is our task as the nurse is not only to take care of the mother, but again to protect the rights of a mother. Your task as the nurse is not doesn't end in providing health education, in providing or in getting the vital signs, in knowing what are the complications of pregnancy, but be able to what to protect the rights of the woman and to empower them that they are capable of protecting themselves too. Okay, thank you so much and good day.